The clock ticked past midnight. Empty corridors echoed with the ghosts of hurried footsteps. Sarah, weary after a double shift, yearned for her bed. Every muscle ached, a symphony of exhaustion. Outside, the city held its breath, shrouded in an unnatural stillness. Rain threatened to fall, each heavy drop a drumbeat against the pavement. Streetlights flickered, casting long dancing shadows. Sarah hugged her coat tighter, a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness. The air, thick with moisture and the faint scent of ozone, prickled her skin. Fear, a familiar spectre, whispered in her ear. It slithered down deserted streets, clung to her heels. Her apartment building loomed, a dark monolith against the stormy sky. Safety, she thought, lay just beyond that door. The lone figure walked down an empty city street at night, lit only by a flickering streetlight. The buildings around were dark and imposing, the sky above a stormy, swirling mix of colors. The apartment was a tomb, silent and cold. Sarah fumbled for the light switch, banishing the shadows to reveal a familiar sight. The worn furniture, the half-empty bookshelf, the single painting she'd hung on the far wall, all stood in their places. Yet something felt off, an almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere, like a held breath. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was expectant, heavy. She shrugged off the feeling, attributing it to exhaustion. The bathroom light flickered, casting grotesque shapes across the tiles. Sarah shivered, the image unsettling, out of place. She moved towards her reflection in the mirror, a tired smile tugging at her lips. The smile, however, didn't reach her eyes. The mirror, old and tarnished, hung askew on the wall. It had always bothered her, its clouded surface, the way it seemed to absorb light. Tonight, it seemed to pulse with a faint, internal luminescence. She splashed water on her face, the coolness a shock. Her reflection, pale and drawn, stared back, or was it staring back? For a fleeting second, she could have sworn the reflection didn't quite match her movements. A chill snaked down her spine. Nonsense, she told herself, just exhaustion playing tricks. Still, her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the silence. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. The face in the mirror. It's not what it seems. A woman stands, staring at her reflection in a dimly lit bathroom, her face pale and frightened, her eyes wide with terror. But the reflection, it shows a horrifying, distorted version of her face, with a grotesque smile and empty black eyes. She turned away from the mirror, heart pounding, and that's when she saw it, the reflection. It hadn't turned with her. It remained frozen, a grotesque mockery of her own fear. The face in the mirror wasn't her own. It was similar, yes, but twisted, wrong. The eyes were too wide, bottomless pits reflecting nothing but malice. A smile stretched across its face, too wide, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too many. A scream caught in her throat, a strangled gasp. Her legs felt rooted to the spot, her body refusing to obey the flight instinct, screaming at her to run. The reflection moved, a slow, deliberate tilt of its head, and the thing in the mirror winked. The scream finally ripped from her throat, raw and primal. She scrambled back, tripping over her own feet, the need to escape overwhelming all other thoughts. The room seemed to tilt, the familiar space suddenly alien and hostile. She slammed the bathroom door shut, the flimsy barrier offering little comfort. Her back pressed against the wood, she slid down, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The silence from the other side of the door was deafening. It was waiting. She could feel it, a palpable presence just beyond the thin wood. Fear, cold and suffocating, wrapped around her like a shroud. How long she sat there, she didn't know. Time seemed to lose all meaning. Eventually, the terror began to recede, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. Cautiously, she pushed herself to her feet. The apartment was silent, the air no longer thick with dread. She approached the bathroom door, hand trembling as she reached for the handle. Taking a deep breath, she flung it open. The bathroom was empty. The mirror hung askew, its surface reflecting nothing but the pale light of dawn creeping through the window. Had she imagined it all? A trick of the light? A hallucination brought on by exhaustion? A wave of dizziness swept over her. She leaned against the sink, willing her racing heart to slow. As she splashed water on her face, a flicker of movement in the mirror caught her eye. Her blood ran cold. The reflection, for just a fraction of a second, showed not her own terrified face, but the grinning, monstrous visage that had haunted her nightmares. The image vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving her staring at her own reflection, a chill settling deep in her bones. She knew then, with a certainty that chilled her to the core, that it wasn't over. It was still out there, lurking just beyond the veil of reality, watching, waiting, and the next time she looked in the mirror, she might not recognize the face staring back.